Today we are going to break down and run through Pigeon Pose. So it's a gorgeous pose for hips, for hamstrings, and really good prep for splits as well. So you're going to want to grab yourself a block, a brick, a blanket or a cushion, just some props just to support you in this pose. So there are two ways we can get into Pigeon Pose. We can either access it through tabletop or from downward dog. So I will show you both variations. So just to come in from tabletop position, so coming on to all fours, you're going to want to pick up one of your legs, take it forwards. So bringing the toes towards the wrist and then the knee towards the other wrist. And then to get into the pose, you're going to want to kind of wiggle around and just find that nice variation. So the front leg here, back leg, just taking a gaze back just to check it straight out behind you. And then just taking some movement. This is where you're going to want to grab your blanket. So if that left hip doesn't touch the floor, you're going to want to take that prop underneath that hip. So we want the hips to be nice and square. So once we find that point, you're going to want to bring your back hip just forwards a bit, your front hip, and take it back a little bit. So really aligned into the hips. What we want to avoid is that falling over onto one side, taking those hips out of alignment. So just really think about squaring into those hips. And as I say, move them out as much as you need just to find that point. Bringing that heel closer into the body if we need to. Or if you are a bit more open, then maybe taking that foot up, flexing, really activating through that front foot. And then once you've found that point, then just finding where you need to be. So staying on the hands here if that's enough. Maybe putting a bit more weight into the hands if it is uncomfortable. And then gradually, as you do get more comfortable in this pose, just playing about with different positions. So this is maybe where you can come down onto the forearms. And then you can maybe take this block and place the forehead down. So if the forehead doesn't come down to the floor, then maybe placing it on a block. If it is available, then coming down onto the forehead. If you do want to extend even more, then maybe taking those hands straight out and coming down on to those arms. So this is the point. So after all that movement, finding that positioning, this is the point where we want to try and find a little bit of stillness. So really play around with finding that positioning before you find that stillness. I'll just show you on the other side as well. This time we'll come into it from our downward dog. So coming into downward dog, lifting that leg up and then bringing it forwards. Again, aiming those toes towards the wrist, that knees towards the other wrist. And then again from this side, this is that point where if this hip doesn't touch the floor, then taking that blanket, that cushion, that pillow, as much or as many as you need and propping it under. Again, just making sure that leg's straight out, squaring into the hips. So showing from this side, if we come down, you notice here how my hips have come out of alignment. And then as soon as we prop underneath, we're a lot more square. So then think about really bringing that right hip back, that left hip forward, finding that space, that comfort, and then finding where we want to be. Again, so maybe coming down here or reaching down. And remembering if it's available, maybe shifting that foot forward, flexing into that foot, and then finding that place of stillness. Again, whatever works for you and your body. And just knowing over time, then we can come deeper into the pose. As it starts to become more accessible for us, we can maybe think about removing some of the props, checking in with those hips, maybe replacing the blanket for that brick if we need to. Just remembering that we want to keep those hips square. We want to come out, if we come out of alignment like that, then using a prop just remembering that using props is a really good way of learning different asana and different poses. Props are there to help you, they're there to aid you. If you always need props in your practice, then that is absolutely fine. Not using props doesn't make you a better yogi. I certainly use them a lot in my practice because they really do help. So I hope you found that useful. I hope it helps in your pigeon pose. If you have any questions at all, then please pop them down in the comments below and I will come back to you. I hope you enjoyed that pigeon pose. Namaste.